goes for you. Rise from your crypt. Vampire.
Silvermark Province, Office of Her Majesty's Public Safety and Civil Defence, Internal Memorandum number 1742. This the 14th day of October, year of our Lord, 1897. Concerning disturbances at the ancient burial grounds. Classification, most confidential. Priority, immediate action required. For the immediate attention of Captain Henrik Dreyberg, Commander of the Provincial Guard. My dear Captain, I write with considerable urgency regarding certain peculiar occurrences which have manifested these past fortnight at the ancient burial grounds, situated in the eastern reaches of our fair province. The initial testimony of our groundskeeper, a Mr. William Vale, has brought to light most troubling accounts of atmospheric anomalies and inexplicable displacement of several grave markers dating to the age of strife. Upon thorough investigation, I must report the following observations. 1. The ambient temperature in the vicinity has exhibited a most remarkable decline, crystalline formations of frost manifesting upon the vegetation even during the meridian hours. Such phenomena are wholly unprecedented for this season. 2. 3 of our night watchmen have most troublingly failed to present themselves for their appointed duties. A 4th, Mr. Marcus Thane, was discovered in a state of acute nervous agitation, speaking in a most disturbed fashion about shadows that partake of life's essence. He presently resides under the care of Dr. Morrison at the Provincial Infirmary. 3. The local fauna has, in its entirety, evacuated a perfectly circular region of approximately 200 yards in diameter, centered upon the most ancient section of the burial grounds. Even the ravens, which have been faithful residents of our cemetery since time immemorial, have taken wing. 4. Most disquieting of all, we have discovered that the sealed entrance to the ancient crypts has been breached from within. The great stone door, weighing no less than several imperial tons, and secured with implements of refined silver and consecrated iron, was found utterly shattered. Our analysis indicates with disturbing certainty that the force responsible was applied from the interior. I have taken it upon myself to double the complement of guards and have submitted a requisition for additional crossbow bolts of a silver composition from the Royal Armoury. While I hesitate to cause undue disquiet among the civil authorities, these manifestations bear an unsettling correspondence to certain historical accounts from the age of strife. Recommendation. I most strongly advocate for the elevation of our priority classification to that of highest urgency. I respectfully request the immediate counsel of the Church of Luminance. Their ecclesiastical archives may contain pertinent information regarding the original purpose of these burial grounds and the nature of their former occupants. With mounting concern, I remain your most humble and obedient servant, Lieutenant Anna Blackwood, Her Majesty's Provincial Guard. Personally then them, I should be gravely remiss in my duties were I to omit mention of the dreams. Every guide assigned to the vicinity of the burial grounds reports identical nocturnal terrors, a hunger of such vast proportions as to consume the very stars from the firmament. I have issued strict orders that no man shall patrol in solitude, yet I fear we direct our vigilance entirely the wrong direction. Whatever entity lay imprisoned within those ancient crypts has already secured its liberation. Should Providence decree my untimely departure from this mortal coil, I have secured my personal journal in the third drawer of my desk. The key resides with my sister in Dunwich. There exists certain patterns, observations of so disturbing a nature that I dare not commit them to an official record, yet which the Council must be made aware of, should the worst come to pass.
My dear Jonas, I pray this letter finds you with sufficient haste, though I must confess my hand trembles so as I write, that you may find the script difficult to discern. I must relate to you the most peculiar and horrifying circumstances of last evening's hunt, though I fear you shall think me quite mad for the telling of it. We discovered the beast's trail with such ease as to provoke the gravest suspicions in my breast. There was something altogether wrong about the manner of the tracks, my dear friend. The great pack, which for so long had been a terror of our northern settlements, was engaged not in the pursuit of prey, nay, they themselves were in flight, but from some greater horror. My dear Jonas, I pray this letter finds you with sufficient haste, though I must confess my hand trembles so as I write, that you may find the script difficult to discern. I must relate to you the most peculiar and horrifying circumstances of last evening's hunt, though I fear you shall think me quite mad for the telling of it. We discovered the beast's trail with such ease as to provoke the gravest suspicions in my breast. There was something altogether wrong about the manner of the tracks, my dear friend. The great pack, which for so long had been a terror of our northern settlements, was engaged not in the pursuit of prey, nay, they themselves were in flight, but from some greater horror. Hunters Guild, the most urgent correspondence. 20th of October, year of our Lord, 1897. Farbane Woods, Northern Quarter. We came upon a clearing of considerable size, where ancient oaks had been torn from the sacred earth, as though they were naught but children's toys. There, amidst the gnarled roots, lay the Alpha, that magnificent creature which for so long had eluded our most cunning efforts. But it was not this piteous sight which caused the very marrow in my bones to freeze, dear friend. Rather, it was the figure which crouched over the noble beast's remains. We came upon a clearing of considerable size, where ancient oaks had been torn from the sacred earth, as though they were not the children's toys. There, amidst the gnarled roots, lay the Alpha, that magnificent creature which for so long had eluded our most cunning effort. But it was not this piteous sight which caused the very marrow in my bones to freeze, dear friend. Rather, it was the figure that crouched over the noble beast's remains. Possessed of a pallor that rivaled the freshly fallen snow, it moved with such terrible grace that no earthly creature ought possess. The thing was engaged in a most hideous act of feeding, Jonas. Nay, not mere feeding, but a grotesque communion of blood. When it turned its gaze upon our party, its eyes blazed with a terrible radiance of molten copper. And God help me, its lip curled into what I can only describe as a smile of the most dreadful satisfaction. Young Marcus, in his terror, loosed a bolt before I could stay his hand. The creature moved with such swiftness as to make a mockery of our mortal limitations, plucking the silver-tipped bolt from the very air as though it were a delicate flower. In the next instant, I scarcely describe it, the thing was upon him. Such screams, Jonas! Would that I could strike the memory of those sounds from my mind, but they shall surely haunt my dreams until my dying day. I gave the order to retreat, though I fear it came too late for poor Kendra and Eric, who were lost in the darkness of those accursed woods. The fiend made sport of us, dear friend, herding our party as a shepherd might guide his flock to slaughter. Only 3 souls from our original party reached the safety of our mounts. Uppsala sustained a grievous wound to his lower extremities. By the morning light, a most peculiar infection had spread halfway up his thigh, dark veins pulsating in a grotesque synchronicity with each beat of his failing heart. The surgeon holds little hope that he shall survive the night, down scratched into the margin in a hasty, irregular hand. It stands at my window, even now as I write these words. Lord in heaven, those eyes, I feel its gaze upon my very soul. If you are reading this, I am already... The writing deteriorates into a violet slash of ink across the page.
Office of the Grand Inquisitor, Church of Luminance, Brighthaven. Internal Communique. 10th of November, Year of Our Lord, 1897. Most Reverend Father, I write to you from the remains of Frostreach village, where I have made certain discoveries of so disturbing a nature that I dare not delay in their relating. Upon my arrival, I found the settlement entirely deserted, though bearing evidence of recent and violent upheaval. Among the documents recovered from the guard captain's office, I discovered the following report, which I have transcribed in full. Office of the Grand Inquisitor, Church of Luminance, Brighthaven. Internal Communicate, 10th of November, Year of Our Lord, 1897. Most Reverend Father, I write to you from the remains of Frostreach village, where I have made certain discoveries of so disturbing a nature that I dare not delay in their relating. Upon my arrival, I found the settlement entirely deserted, though bearing evidence of recent and violent upheaval. Among the documents recovered from the guard captain's office, I discovered the following report, which I have transcribed in full. Frostreach Village, Captain's Log, 31st of October, 1897. It is with considerable bewilderment that I record the events of this evening. At approximately 7 o'clock, as the winter storm began to gather force, none other than the notorious outlaw Keely the Frost Archer presented herself at our village gates. The woman, known throughout the province for her predations upon merchant caravans, was in a state of acute distress. Most remarkable, she surrendered her legendary bow, that instrument of countless murders, without resistance, and indeed insisted upon her immediate detention. Her manner was that of one pursued by the devils themselves. Upon being informed that the brewing storm would delay her transport to Brighthaven for trial, she flew into such panic as I have never seen. Her ravings concerned the wholesale slaughter of her bandit clan, by which she described as the shadow that drinks. She spoke of impossible feats, of a singular entity that moved faster than the eye could follow, that shrugged off arrows as though they were raindrops. She insisted that we fortify the village immediately, though the storm made such preparations impossible. I've placed her in a stone holding cell beneath the guardhouse. Though her warnings trouble me greatly, I cannot help but feel some satisfaction in finally having this notorious criminal in my custody. End of log. Most Reverend Father, what I have discovered in my subsequent investigation of the village has shaken my very faith. The holding cell, mentioned in the captain's report, had been torn open from the outside, its iron bars bent as though they were naught but copper wire. In the village square, I found evidence of a last, desperate defense. Overturned wagons arranged in a circle, arrows as thick as autumn leaves upon the ground. But it was the condition of the dead that most demands your attention. I am uncertain if such horror has been witnessed before by human eyes. Many of the bodies bore the marks of impossible strength, limbs twisted and bones shattered. Yet more disturbing were those that appear to have risen again after death, only to be struck down a second time. These corpses bore the unmistakable signs of recent movement, yet were drained entirely of blood, their flesh bearing the grey pallor of ash. Among the fallen, I identified the remains of Keely herself. Her body was unlike the others. It bore a strange crystalline quality, as though her very essence had not merely been drained, but transformed. The legendary bow lay beside her, both covered in a rime of frost that defies natural order. It remains frozen despite exposure to fire.
Convent of the Sacred Light, outskirts of Brighthaven, 24th of November, Year of Our Lord, 1897. For the immediate attention of Master Tristan, Vampire Hunter of the Church, Esteemed Master Tristan, Convent of the Sacred Light, outskirts of Brighthaven, 24th of November, year of our Lord, 1897. For the immediate attention of Master Tristan, Vampire Hunter of the Church. Esteemed Master Tristan, I write to you at the behest of Father Emmanuel concerning a matter of gravest import. For these past 4 weeks, our humble convent has played host to a most peculiar individual, a man initially arrested in Brighthaven for what the city guards mistook for common drunkenness. Upon closer observation, it became apparent that his affliction was of a far more troubling nature. I have maintained detailed observations of the subject, which I shall now relate. The man's lucidity waxes and wanes with unsettling regularity. During the daylight hours, particularly when the sun stands at its zenith, he demonstrates periods of relative coherence. Yet as the darkness descends, his behavior grows increasingly erratic. Most disturbingly is the correlation I have observed between the phases of the moon and the intensity of his episodes. As the lunar face grows fuller, so too does his madness deepen. His physical mannerisms bear careful notation. The subject maintains a peculiar fixation with the eastern window of his chamber, spending hours in silent contemplation of the distant mountain. When questioned about this behavior, he speaks of answering the call and returning to his master's service. On numerous occasions, I've witnessed him snap his head sharply toward the window, as though responding to a sound that none but he can hear. Perhaps the most unsettling observation is his relationship with creatures that chance to enter his chamber. Small birds that alight upon his windowsill vanish with alarming swiftness. At first I suspected he was merely frightening them away, until I observed him consume a sparrow whole, bones and feathers all. He demonstrates similar behavior with insects, seeming to take particular relish in the consumption of flies and moth. When questioned about this behavior, he spoke of practicing for when his master requires it. Through careful questioning during his more lucid moments, I have managed to extract certain details about his former residence. A great castle that he claims lies nestled in the mountains east of Frostreach village. While no such structure appears on any map in our extensive library, the man's descriptions maintain a remarkable consistency. He speaks of vast halls lined with crimson carpets, of gardens that bloom only by moonlight, and of great machines that pump blood through the walls like a perverted mockery of veins. When pressed, he describes his master with a mixture of terror and devotion. He speaks of a being of grace and power who granted him the gift of service through some manner of blood ritual. The details he has revealed about this entity align with the texts in our ancient library concerning vampire lords of the highest order. Father Emmanuel and I have come to believe that we have in our custody a thrall, a servant bound by blood to a vampire of extraordinary power. The location he describes, while absent from our maps, lies in the same region from which we have received most disturbing reports of late, including the massacre at Frostreach village. Given your considerable experience in dealing with the vampire scourge, we humbly request your expert assessment of this situation. Should you determine that this threat warrants direct action, you have the full support of the Church in pursuing whatever means you deem necessary. With grave concern, Sister Agnes, Mother Superior of the Sacred Light Convent. Addendum. Even as I seal this letter, the subject has begun screaming about the Master's victory at Frostreach. The townsfolk are yet to receive official word of the events there, and he has no possible means of communication with the outside world. I urge you to make haste in your response. Light preserve us all.
10th of December. The journey through these inhospitable mountains has tested even my considerable experience. The snow falls with unnatural persistence, yet I press on, guided by the ravings of our peculiar guest at the Sacred Light Convent. Though I have long doubted the existence of this phantom castle, I can no longer deny the evidence of my eyes. It rises before me now. A monument to unholy ambition. Spires of dark stone thrust up through the mountain mists, like accusing fingers pointed at God himself. 10th of December. The journey through these inhospitable mountains has tested even my considerable experience. The snow falls with unnatural persistence, yet I press on, guided by the ravings of our peculiar guest at the Sacred Light Convent. Though I have long doubted the existence of this phantom castle, I can no longer deny the evidence of my eyes. It rises before me now. A monument to unholy ambition. Spires of dark stone thrust up through the mountain mists, like accusing fingers pointed at God himself. 11th of December. I have established a rudimentary camp in the lee of a great boulder, offering both shelter and a clear view of the castle's eastern approach. My initial observations confirm my gravest fears. This is no ordinary vampire lair. The sophistication of its construction and the scale of its operation suggests powers far beyond those of the fledgling creatures I have hunted in the past. Most remarkable is the constant activity about the grounds. Even in the daylight hours, when any true vampire must surely rest, thralls move about their duties with disturbing precision. They are not mindless servants. They move with purpose, maintaining gardens of strange pale flowers, operating forges whose smoke bears an oddly sweet scent. At sunset, I observe the master this dark domain depart, moving with that terrible liquid grace that marks the highest of their kind. It headed east, no doubt towards the populated valleys. Yet the castle remains alive with activity in its lord's absence. 12th of December. This afternoon brings a most remarkable sight. Wagons departing the castle's western gate laden with freshly forged weapons and armor of exceptional quality. The craftsmanship, visible even from my position, speaks to no ordinary smithing. More wagons return come morning, bearing the luxuries, paintings, wines, and other spoils that would befit a noble house. This is no mere lair. It is the seat of a growing empire. 13th of December, morning. Dawn brings an unexpected development that forces my hand. Two figures with equipment that marks them as fellow hunters of the church approach the castle from the western ridge. I attempted to signal them, but they moved with such haste into a side entrance that I fear they did not see my warnings. I must move now, ready or not, if I am to aid them in their assault. 13th of December, morning. Dawn brings an unexpected development that forces my hand. Two figures with equipment that marked from this fellow hunters of the church approached the castle from the western ridge. I attempted to signal them, but they moved with such haste into a side entrance that I fear they did not see my warnings. I must move now, ready or not, if I am to aid them in their assault. 13th of December, afternoon. God in heaven, what have I witnessed? I write this from the highest tower of this accursed castle, my lifeblood seeping into the parchment even as I pen these words. The events I must relate seem a fever dream, yet I know them to be true. My entry through the gardens went as planned. I traversed through rows of pale roses, their petals the color of freshly spilled blood. The workshops beyond spoke of a grander operation than I had imagined. Forges of strange designs lined the walls, yielding weapons of extraordinary quality. Deeper still, I found a chamber of true horror, one where living prisoners hung suspended, their blood drawn by intricate machines to feed this nightmare. The sounds of combat drew me to what appeared to be a grand dining hall, its tables set with golden plates, as if in a mockery of our mortal festivities. But the scene that greeted me, Mother of God, how blind I was. The hunters I rushed to aid were vampires themselves, lesser lords come to assassinate their rival. The battle that raged between them was something from the stories of the Age of Strife. I could not withdraw, could not allow any of these abominations to survive. Thus did I turn their duel into a desperate three-sided combat. Yet even as I write these words, I know my intervention served only to unite them against me. The lesser two fell, yes, but at terrible cost. My blessed weapons lie shattered on the marble floor far below, and my wounds, these are no ordinary hurts that might heal in time. I have observed one last wagon preparing to depart the castle grounds. With God's grace, I shall be able to cast this journal to its cargo. To whoever reads these words, deliver it to the church with all haste. They must know this vampire is none like any we have faced before. It has mastered arts we got lost to the ages. It has raised not just a lair, but a fortress. You must send an army, not hunters. You must... The sun sinks slower. I've torn a piece of wood from the trapdoor's frame and shaped it as best I could into a stake. A poor weapon against such power. But I will meet my end on my feet, as a hunter should. The journal goes now to the wagon below. God grant it finds its way to the hands of those that might make use of its contents. To whatever hunters follow me, do not come alone, do not come unprepared. This is no mere vampire to be stalked and slain like the others. This is an ancient demon, something terrible, something that builds, grows, and learns. The sun will touch the horizon soon. I can hear it below, preparing its own weapons and unholy rituals. May God have mercy on us all. I don't think I've quite figured out this game review as a short story format, but I do intend to make more and continue to tweak and refine the format and style. So if you've enjoyed this and you want more stories from gaming's countless worlds, feel free to join me on this journey by subscribing. I don't think I've quite figured out this game review as a short story format, but I do intend to make more and continue to tweak and refine the format and style. So if you've enjoyed this and you want more stories from gaming's countless worlds, feel free to join me on this journey by subscribing. For those interested in the nitty-gritty details of my playthrough, I played co-op with one other person on brutal difficulty. Our playthrough took about 60 to 70 hours, and it was also one of the few games I 100%ed.